And welcome to all of you who are joining us here in New York, across the country, and watching around the world. We're being simulcast tonight on CNN International, CNN en Espanol, CNN Go, and Sirius XM Satellite Channel 116. This is our second Libertarian Town Hall, in no small part because of the growing interest in a third-party alternative. New polling just out tonight shows 12% support for Libertarian nominee Gary Johnson in a three-way race. With us here tonight, some of those voters, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, all of whom share one thing. They say they will not be voting for either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, or they haven't made up their mind. They've got questions. Can the Libertarians provide better answers than what the other parties have been given so far? We'll see in the hour ahead. As always, the questions come mainly from the audience. We've looked them over to make sure they don't overlap. I'll ask a couple of questions myself, but mostly staying out of the way. Let's get right to it. Joining us right now, the Libertarian presidential nominee, former Governor Gary Johnson of New Mexico, and his running mate, former Governor William Weld of Massachusetts. Thanks so much for being here. So, before we get to the audience questions, I just want to start off with a couple questions really out of the headlines today. We talked about this new poll. Fox News poll shows you at 12%. That's only a three-way poll. The last CNN poll, which was a four-way poll with Jill Stein, showed you at 9%. That's the last time you were here. In our last four-way CNN poll, which came out just on Monday, still had you at 9%. What do you think you need to gain momentum? What more do you need to do? Well,
this interview right here is going to push us over 17, I'm sure. So thank you very much, really.
But it was 9% before the last town hall, and you're still at 9%. I don't want to knock our ability to do that.
No, it's ratcheting up. I mean, we're reaching 25 million people now, social media-wise, and we're raising money, and of course that gives us the ability to push that out, and so all the analytics look really good.
You know, there's been a number of high-profile Republicans who have said they're not going to be voting for Donald Trump. You just had Meg Whitman, who is a Republican donor. She's now saying she's supporting Hillary Clinton. Obviously, you saw Mike Bloomberg, who was the independent as a governor, as a mayor of New York, speaking at the Democratic convention for Hillary Clinton. It's got to be frustrating for you that Bloomberg didn't look at you, that Meg Whitman didn't look at you. What is your message to Republicans out there watching tonight?
Well, two former Republican governors that got reelected in heavily Democrat states. I think that speaks volumes. And not really frustrated, just understanding how difficult it is to cross over the line if you're an elected Republican or if you've been a former elected Republican.
Governor Weld?
Well, I think the message to Republicans is that we were two of the most fiscally responsible, i.e. conservative governors in the United States when we served together back in the 90s. Gary and I were good friends then. We're good friends now. But we were each rated the fiscally most conservative governor in the United States. And that takes some doing. We are, socially inclusive, tolerant, whatever word you want. In fact, we've been leaders on those issues. I was all by myself for a decade.
Early 90s, as I remember.
In the 90s, the very early 90s.
91, I think it was.
Lesbian issues, right when I came into office. So we stand for the proposition, as I said at the Republican convention in Houston in 1992, we want the government out of your pocketbook and out of your bedroom. And I'll tell you, the polling shows that a majority of Americans think that.
So what is it just a question of publicity? Is it just a question of people just don't know what libertarians are?
The idea that we should not be at those debates expressing what's a majority point of view in the country can only be laid at the door of the two-party monopoly, the duopoly that has a stranglehold on power in Washington. That's the R's and the D's, who sometimes seem to exist mainly for the express purpose of killing each other.
Let's talk about the Republicans a little bit more, because obviously there's huge divisions right now within the Republican Party. I mean, we've just seen yesterday Donald Trump refusing to endorse Paul Ryan, refusing to endorse John McCain. Do you see this as an opportunity for you? What's happening on the Republican side?
Well, it's really both sides. I just posed the question, if either Trump or Clinton are elected, that things will be more polarized than ever. Neither side is going to get along with the other. And what if you elect a couple of former Republican governors, two-term, re-elected, running as libertarians? What if you elect them as president, vice president, calling out both sides?
How can you bring things, if you're calling out both sides, how can you bring things together in Washington? How can you do what a Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump
I
can't
think
do?
it might be refreshing to have a party that was not terribly partisan holding the White House. And we would hire the best people from the Democratic Party that we could find, the smartest people from the Republican Party that we could find, the best people in the Libertarian Party. And our proposals out of the White House would not say, take that, you stupid D party or you stupid R party. It would be, you know, here's what we think. This is maybe kind of in the middle. Could we come together around this? And the recipients of that information would not feel attacked, so they might be more likely to come to the table because they wouldn't feel like they were going to be made fools of.
We're also proposing something unique, I believe, in that we're planning to do this as a partnership.
How does that? I mean, that's
well, how does it work? Not having separate staffs, not being divided, but really two heads for the price of one, and that it would be a plus for the country. Believing that.
It helps that we've known each other for 20 years and sort of chose each other a long time ago to be friends, and then again more recently.
This guy was my role model, becoming governor. Really, I held him up on a pedestal. So having him as the on the ticket is beyond my wildest dream.
I want to hear about your vision of America right now, because we've just come out of the two conventions where we heard very different visions of America. Donald Trump's vision of how things are right now, and certainly Hillary Clinton's as well. How do you see where America is at?
I don't think life in America has ever been better. I mean, we get along better, we communicate better, our kids are smarter than ever. We've got issues. I mean, when you look at Black Lives Matter, when you look at the discrimination that is existing, that has existed, but I think we're coming to grips with that. We're communicating better than we've ever communicated before, so we're going to come to grips with this. And we do have issues, but we need to address them. So optimism.
The country's in a fine place, and it's still the envy of the world. You know, people envy our rule of law and our economy and the way we conduct ourselves in general. But there's an elephant in the room, which is the paralysis in Washington as a result of the ferocious hatred of the two parties for each other. And I think it's getting in the way of effective policy being made.
But I don't understand how you get over that. I know you say you'll hire the best Democrats, you'll hire Republicans, but when you have conservatives who believe any form of compromise is compromising on principles. I mean, that's a logjam.
Some people are that way. They're probably not going to be members of our coalition if they think they can't compromise on anything at all. We were red governors in blue states, and we had to, in order to balance the budget, which not everybody wanted to do, we had to reach across the aisle, which people in Washington have shown precious little appetite to do ever since the 1994 election.
So when Donald Trump says "Make America Great Again," do you believe America is
great? Is never been better, and that isn't to say that we don't have issues, but we should be dealing with those issues.
Governor Johnson, you recently said that if you had to describe Hillary Clinton in one word, the word you would use was beholden. Who's she beholden to? Well,
when you look at really, it's just not coincidence, I don't think, that Bill Clinton and Hillary both are making huge amounts of money with these speaking fees. I mean, there are others that look at this, Anderson, or I don't want to throw rocks at this, but really, it's a pay to play. It's just not.
So beholden to big money donors, beholden to Wall Street.
Well, their own interests, if you will, that they're making money off of this. That as Secretary of State, Bill goes out, does $1 million speaking gig, and then the next day, Hillary signs an agreement with the sponsor of that speaking gig, and that's not good. That's beholden, if you want to say that. It's smacks of pay to play, and I think it goes beyond just smacks of pay to play. That it's really something that's out there.
Governor, well, I know you've known Hillary Clinton for a long time. I think you shared an office once long ago. Right. Do you agree with that assessment? Is she beholden?
Well, I think what Gary has said is factually accurate. My principal beef with the Democratic proposals coming out of the convention is the $1 trillion tax hike. That's with a T. The Tax Policy Center costed out Mrs. Clinton's proposed tax hike at $1.1 trillion. And, like I say, Gary and I both balanced the budget, in fact, cut the budget. And I cut taxes 21 times. He cut taxes 14 times. And the unemployment picture greatly improved as a result of that. And that, I think, is the way to go. The Democrats are going to have a very hard time avoiding increasing the $20 $20 trillion national debt that we'll have when President Obama leaves office. In fact, it looks as though it'll go in the other direction.
When you were asked to describe Donald Trump in one word, the word you picked was huckster. Is that still the word you would use?
Yeah, I think he's he's a showman, he's a Pied Piper, he's the music man. But more recently, it's gotten a little bit more serious, and the noun that comes to my mind is a screw loose. And
you really think so?
No, I do. It's a temperamental question, and I say this almost with affection for Donald Trump. Maybe he should consider some other line of work, like anything other than President of the United States.
You don't think Governor Johnson, do you agree? I mean, that he has a screw loose, or that?
Well, what we both like to talk about is, was there anything that Hillary didn't promise in her speech the other night? And then with regard to Donald Trump, just starting off with immigration, we're a country of immigrants. We should be embracing immigration. We shouldn't be talking about restricting it. And then when he talks about killing the families of Muslim terrorists, when he talks about free trade, but in the next sentence he says, I'm going to force Apple to make their iPads and their iPhones in the United States, and that we should apply a 35% tariff on imported goods. Well, who pays for that?
That's really not a libertarian principle.
It's not at all. And I think that unfairly, the world has really connected crony capitalism and free trade. They've kind of, the thought is that it's one and the same, when in fact it's opposite. So we're all about free trade.
We want to talk about that issue and a lot more coming up. Stay right where you are. When we come back, questions from the audience is the CNN Libertarian Town Hall. We'll be right back.